Welcome back to Story Deep Dive with Rachel and Dana. This is a podcast where two book coaches, editors, and besties discuss books not as readers but as writers to draw inspiration from great books and have lots of laughs along the way. I tried to do this intro once and I devolved into a fit of giggles and had to start over. So when I say have lots of laughs along the way, whether you want them or not, you guys are getting the giggles and the shenanigans.
You get them for free.
So today we are discussing characters in Broken Harbor by Catherine Cowles. We had such a great discussion with plot. So if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. So I'm really excited to deep dive a little bit more into the characters in this story. But first, I'm going to check in with my friend Dana and see how she's doing over at Danja Tales and what she's got going on, because she always has something going on. So what are you doing over there, Dana? Tell me everything.
One of these days, I'm going to say nothing.
Just, no, nothing new.
Nothing.
What about you?
Nothing else.
And then I'm going to be like, oh no, what do I do?
Exactly.
She broke the script. Oh no.
Say twist. Okay. Well, I mean, I have no idea what we have going on. I just feel like there are times when you're just going with the flow. That's what I feel like is going on. But in my world, I have finished the first draft of this series.
Yes. Give us the details. We want to tell us everything. Catch us up on what the series is and what the project was, like in terms of how you were going about it, and anything else you want to tell us.
First of all, I think it's madness. I think it's one of those moments where you constantly ask yourself who came up with this idea and you have no one to look at but yourself. But here's the thing. My schedule, exactly, who, me? My schedule is really busy, and I've been thinking about my pen names and thinking about the projects that I'm working on and how I want to do them and release them and do it in a way that feels like it's not another thing. Like it's not this point of friction, because I will keep writing. So since we've already determined that, is like, how do you do it in a way that feels like good? No, not good is probably not it, but the point is, so towards the beginning of the year, I decided that, okay, I'm just going to write the full series. Like I'm going to write the full series, because having to write, release, then you still got to write because people emailing you about the series. And that just makes it just like anxious. And then something can pop up and I don't get to touch it, or only little bits for months, and so I've been working on this series all year. First of all, it was not supposed to take this long, girl, because then here's the mic drop right now. Now I got 4 books to edit. 4. Look back to the top. Who signed me up for this? Oh my God. So, but I've been having moments of reflection. And it's been about a couple things. Okay. And I'll go quick. We've been having this series in Danja Tales, specifically DTW, around like, how do you go through the process of not just writing your book, but having a project where you get to infuse everything that you believe you want to put in a story, so that you then can have a finished thing to be able to sit back and say, okay, this is what I thought. This is what I aimed for. This is what I got. Here's how readers responded. And we sort of have a process for that. We have a test novella. We also have a test series. And I wanted to have an opportunity for one of my like outlier pen names to sort of have the opportunity to work through that from the ground up, because I'm playing with certain things like how dark and how steamy. And while I'm doing that, being able to share that experience with the students. But it also is, for me, something that is helpful because of my schedule and because of the things that I just want to create and stories and ideas that I have. And so, so now it's just been a thing of like having those blocks of time being very clear, and now realizing, like, last week when I finished for the book, my brain was mush, and I couldn't figure out. I was like, why am I so tired? And I totally forgot that normally after I finish a book, I'm like, it's like all the air just
Yeah,
leaves your body, and
for
then
sure.
you get a minute, and then you're like, and so then it was like, oh dang it, how the hell are you about to do this? Like, it wasn't like, how do you edit? I know how to edit. But then you're like, okay, wait a minute. You have the opportunity to do something that you normally don't have, right? Normally, when I'm working with people that are in Inner Circle or my one-on-one clients, and we are working through their series, we work through their series before they start. But to
Mm-hmm.
do that, write it, and now before it even goes out and touch anything, you can go back through the whole thing. You can go back and look at threads or continuity, or look at the overarching thread, or if there's somebody that you want to plant because you want to do a spin-off. Like,
Yeah.
there are so many things. And of course, my brain is thinking all of the things. And I'm like, girl, you can't do nothing until you read. Like, so I had to sit down and like, okay, here's the next steps, right?
Yeah.
Here's the next things that I'm doing. Here's the process. And so as of the time that we're recording right now, I am reading them. So I've read 2 or 4 books and sort of just did just light cursory notes of like
Mm-hmm.
what I see, things that need to, change or updated, things like names. Lord, like it's a million names. And I'm just
We're
like,
gonna have
me
to
of
do a
all
find all.
a find all across all 4 books, because then you put it trying to do a generic name. Well, a generic Russian name over here just finds it way over, and I'm like, wait a minute, I got them 2 places. No, that's the different person, same name. So it's just, I don't know. I feel like, getting to the end of that is a great thing, but at the same time, it's like, it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
I do feel good about it. It has slowed down everything because I didn't think it would take this long. And there's other projects that I would love to work on, but I really wanted to see how I felt about this holistically, of like, is this the
Yeah.
way that I need to write from here on out, and take seasons that are in down times and work
Mhm.
them in my benefit. And they're nowhere near like where I would really be at this stage at the end of a first, what I would consider a first draft, because I literally did a first draft, moved to the next one, did a first draft, moved to the next one. I did not want to stop and overthink or rethink,
Yeah.
because I already had to do things like reworking the outlines and things like that. So yeah, so it's been very interesting, in every non-client moment is going into figuring out what I have.
Yeah. So how would you say, like, you are sort of organizing so far? What have you kind of come up as like your sort of like initial steps of like how you are tackling the fact that you're like, I have 4 first drafts that need to be edited now? Like, what is that? Because you said you at least got some like kind of preliminary steps. How are you kind of organizing that for yourself?
Yeah, great question. First of all, here's one of the things that I would say for myself and anyone listening. Like, don't discount how you work best. Right? I think a lot of times we compartmentalize. Like, we say, oh, when I'm writing, I do this. Or if you were normally working in your work environment, you would move through a big project like X, Y, and Z. And I feel like that's the first thing, because this is a lot bigger than what I would normally do. And they're full length projects. So to go through and say, okay, so a couple things that I've sort of decided was, number one, I'm reading from top to bottom. And as I read from top to bottom, it's not about like making like the little things that if you were marking up a manuscript that you would mark up, but looking at big things, so that once I drop down into the individual book, I can cop a squat there and just work on that book without bumping into the other books or disrupting the other books. Another thing that I've taken on is using dictation a lot. I orally process a lot. It is a tool for me. I've always been that way, and I think now that you have technology that can be helpful in that regard, I do that anyway. But now, like, after I read the story, I have the notes, I talk through what I see, things I need to change, questions that I still have, think ways to make it better, stronger. I need a second character here, blah blah blah. And taking those notes and being extremely organized. I have to be extremely organized, because I'm already a person that I mix up names, me and names. So to have all the
Oh no, you're kryptonite, and then you multiplied it by 4.
Listen, It is so my if you saw the folder, it is so meticulous because I have to be able to dive in, work and move. Dive in, work and move. So that and the plan is sort of like marching out like how much time I'm going to give myself to read and just literally just reading and then start working through like what the notes look like at the book level. And I'm hoping by the time that I get to the final book that I also can see some things that I maybe didn't see when I was in the writing phase, which usually happens over time. But because I take so much time to plot, I usually kind of even know some of this on the back burner. But I'm hoping that I can do some other things like really locking in the backstories, really working on things like the interconnective nature of the main male characters, like little stuff like that that you just don't know until you write the characters and know how they operate. Making sure there's a significant enough difference and balance between the characters across the series, stuff like that, that is more that can sort of adjust at the book level. And this particular book, I helped myself a lot because I didn't introduce the other characters till the end of book one. So it sort of is rolling versus it being they had this whole big history that I did not want to have to carry all of that through. So stuff like that I feel like it's really good. And then I guess the last thing I would say is like continuing to put in my mind that this is a V1. This is a V1 in that if this is something that I find is just beneficial, and I would, for the record, caveat, if you've never, don't do this. If you don't know, this is not the way to do it. Like the fact that this is a profitable pen name that has already done well, that already has an audience, it works in my favor and I know it well enough. And there are some core things that I'm really trying to test with Specificity that I'm doing this, but I would not recommend it. Now, if you're somebody like me or you're someone that you already had your books and you sort of bank books and you want to just write and have your series ready while you're releasing another series, I think that is a great way. And it kind of has its own sense of you sort of can relax. I mean, and I say this to somebody that a lot of your clients, like they're sort of like, they're not relaxing, but you kind of just, you work on the book until you're done working on it and then you're ready. But for my clients, they have people waiting on books. You are trying to move. And so it's a sort of different headspace. So having that and knowing that once I'm ready, the likelihood that all 4 books will be ready and I can do a rapid release or whatever with no problem. And I don't have to stress about it. All I have to do is do what my team already does on the marketing. The thought of that is enough to weather anything.
To keep you going.
Oh, girl. So, yeah. So we shall see. I'm still in the thick of it though. The great thing too, this other part you didn't ask me, but it just came to me. I feel like I love the stories. I love the stories, and that's always a great thing. There are things that I noticed that feel like there is differences because I was concerned that doing it back to back would make them feel the same.
Because it feels like you don't like to hang out in the same story for too long. Like you want to move on, and so the possibility that being inside the same series would feel that way. Yeah.
That, and also the fact that you feel like you're in the same world and then you don't realize, but you're writing the same story with different people. You don't want that either. Right. It has to have a sense of difference and that people are going to want to move through. And so just making sure that the characters were locked in, and so we shall see. So yeah, I finished reading 2 of the 4. I'm reading the 3rd one right now. And I'm just going all the way through top to bottom, sort of banking my notes and thinking through. And then I'll go back through and sort of like cop a squat in each one individually. Yeah. And then do what I do.
Nice.
Girl, do some hocus pocus, child. And pray it doesn't take another 6 months. Oh my gosh. Oh, pray it does not take another 6 months. But who knows? I'm saying that, and I'm going to let myself know that that's a joke. I'm going to let it take whatever time it takes. Yeah. But I don't think it's going to take that long. I think I did the heavy lifting. I think I've done the heavy lifting. So time will tell.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, the nice thing is that like the first draft is now like for the whole series is like like that part of the process, which can be like a little bit, it's like good some of the time, and other times it's kind of like pulling teeth with the first draft as you're kind of getting everything down for the first time. It's kind of nice because now you have that done across the board.
Yeah. And I think there are some things that I've noticed that I didn't do. And I noticed that I haven't done it in a while, that I'm like, I need to bring that back. Like, process wise. And so that was good to see because of that, right? Of like, and so it did what it's doing what it needs to do. At the end, I was like, listen, I just felt like, who signed us up for this?
Usually. That's usually your reaction to just about anything that you do.
And it's always me. Why?
The pleasures and pains of being self-employed.
Oh my goodness.
You're like, boy, I used my free will against myself.
Exactly. The thought of that. Oh, but look, on the other side, we'll see. Because I'm just like, oh my God, that's a lot of words. It's a lot of words. And now to go into the editing process, and I've already, like, I know one story. I already know for sure another 3 to 4 chapters needs to be added. I know.
Yeah.
And I will also say as another caveat, like my first drafts are not like your typical first drafts. Like it's pretty worked because of my, I mean, you know this, Rachel, but I'm just saying for the person, because you're like, wait, but it's the first draft. Like my first draft is probably someone else's third or fourth, but, and I'm a heavy plotter. So a lot of that, it helped a lot, and it helped staying, consistent so that my mind wouldn't get too caught up in the fact that where it was, like, if you're on book 2 or 4, your brain is like, so, keeping me, in the present. That's what I want to say. Keep me in the present and not trying to move faster than what I could. And having the break time and all that to be able to do it and do it with a pretty clear, like a lot of those days I was writing. The bulk of it, the days, writing and reading and quilting, like nonstop. That's great. And now, I mean, the great thing is, like, I have a whole series.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It is. So what about you? Are you up to some shenanigans like me over there at StoryCypher?
It's always shenanigans, totally different kind of shenanigans, though. You know me. It's funny because you're like, it took me 6 months to do 4 books. And I'm like, takes me that long to do 1 book. And that's just 1 draft of 1 book of a novella. Like listen, I am slow writers club over here. Okay. But it's been really, really cool. One of the things that I've started doing kind of more consistently and baking into the schedule, in the academy is like open submission periods where, members of the academy, both, people who are going through novel 101 for the first time, as well as the fellows, because everybody, based on where they're at in the process, still wants or needs feedback, but they need a different kind, right? And so I do these open submissions where everyone can submit to me something that they want me to look at. And the only, like, the 2 caveats are they have to, post it so that everyone in the group can see it, so that when I'm answering their questions, like, everybody is kind of caught up on context. And they have to kind of boil down and ask me one specific question that they want me to answer, right? And so it's like, someone will send me their outline and say, this is what I want the story to be about. Do you see that reflected in the outline? Or one of the ones that we did, so at the time of the recording, we had the session just today. And I had one of my students who got feedback from some beta readers. And she was like, I got this feedback from beta readers, and then I tried to make this change, like, based on what they told me. Like, is it working? Did I fulfill the brief? And we got to have this really great conversation about how you use beta reader feedback and also how not to spin out on one comment, right? Exactly. We had a really good conversation about and what I got to do, because she was concerned with this thing that a commenter raised. And I literally, like, was able to pull up her document, and I did, like, a live quick edit, like, using, like, track changes, where I was like, okay, the thing that, like, is bothering them, which, by the way, at this stage in the story, like, it's literally a line editing problem. I get that they were very grumpy about it in their comment, but it, like, it's such an easy fix. And so I pulled up her document. I did track changes. And I was like, look, delete this thing, voila. Like the problem is literally solved. And because she was sort of like spinning her wheels over it, right? And I was like, look, you just delete these 2 sentences and like you're good to go, you know? And it turned into this really useful conversation about, again, number one, what we do with beta reader feedback, right? How we take beta reader feedback on. And right, the fact that we take it in the aggregate, we don't spin out on one beta reader's, like kind of feedback. But we also kind of had an important conversation about sometimes when you're submitting your writing to your fellow writers, and how sometimes the feedback they give you will differ a little bit from what you're actually looking for, especially if it's beta reader territory. Because a lot of times, and this has happened to my clients on multiple occasions, where normally what I'll do, especially for my coaching clients, but also with diagnostic clients, is if they get beta reader feedback, I say, hey, send me what feedback you got. Like, let's take a look at it together and we'll sort of work out what you're seeing in your beta readers. And some of them will say, oh, I sent this over to my writer friend. And the writer friend will give them this brief. And first of all, let me say, you should like share your writing with your writer friends. Of course, you should like do that. Dana's over here like,
don't do it.
No, ma'am.
Girl, don't do it. No.
I'm not suggesting, like, what I don't want is like, no, of course, don't isolate yourself in your work. But what will happen, and I've watched this happen on multiple occasions, sometimes your writer friends, because they've read craft books and they're also trying to do their own stuff, sometimes they will attempt to, instead of just telling you, hey, this scene was boring, which is kind of like the rough version of feedback that you're actually looking for, they'll try to diagnose the problem. Very frequently, their diagnosis is incorrect. I've had so many of my writers on the brink of derailing because a writer friend was like, oh, here's what's wrong with your story. And I'm like, babe, no, hang on. I need you to walk it back. And it's like, there's maybe like a kernel of truth that it's like, hey, this is actually what they're seeing. And this is actually what's true. So we're going to pull that out and then we're going to work a solution together. This is what I am here for, to help you find the solutions to your story problems. But it was a really helpful, because I have this, like I said, happen all the time with my writers, where they also have writer friends and they pass their writing around. And sometimes the feedback they get is actually unhelpful because their writer friends are not giving them the feedback that they need. And again, attempting to diagnose the problem rather than saying, I don't know, I lost interest here. And those are like the kind, right? I didn't find this convincing. That's the kind of feedback you're looking for from beta readers, not here's what I think is wrong with your Act 2 climax and how I think you should fix it. This is not what we want. And so it was, like I said, a great conversation about that. But then also, like, because I just did like a live edit where I was like, look, and like problem solved, right? It was like, oh, I was spinning out over something that's actually a really quick fix. And it was kind of illuminative for the entire group, which is why I do open submissions like this, where the whole group gets to share their questions and see their fellow writers kind of working through problems that they all either have been through, are going through, or will go through. Right. And everybody learns something from everybody's work and everybody's questions, and it becomes something that kind of like lifts the whole group and helps the whole group. And so that's been, I actually really, really love doing this. It's been super good. And again, we had just a banger conversation about that. So that's what we got going on over the Academy. We are, not spinning out over beta reader feedback. We're we're doing submissions and live editing, and it's been really good.
You know what? And I think the thing, we would have that so often that I have guides for alpha and beta readers, because a lot of times you're asking for feedback from people that aren't even your core readers, right?
Yes.
Like, and that makes a huge
oh my gosh.
It's just, when the reality is like, the story, this, and it's sort of like that moment where you just gotta pause for a second, take a breath. Look, you've come this far. You know how to figure stuff out. This is just the thing to figure out. Like, if it's as big, if it's an issue, if it actually is an issue, if it's a thing to just note, or if it's something you'd be like, okay, thank you for pointing it out, and you just keep a party going, because you don't have to accept every note that someone gives you. But I think a lot of times now that there's not enough given as far as what should that relationship and that feedback look like. Like, we have a guide as well as here's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Here's what you ask for. These are some specific questions that you can ask so that you just don't cause yourself, because a lot of times you've worked really hard, and if you haven't done it before and you're new at it, that just seems like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Or like, why did I even think I could do this?
Yeah, it can be really demoralizing really quick, especially because like if you don't give your beta readers guidelines to like what you want to know, they are going to tell you every random thought that comes into their head, and they will just start telling you anything they think about anything because they don't have any guidelines. So they're like, I don't know what they're looking for, so I'll just tell them everything, and it gets a hot mess so fast. I'm always, if any of my clients are like, hey, I'm going to send this out to beta readers, I'm like, do you have a list of questions? Let me see your list of questions before we send this thing out.
And that is so true. And a lot of times, like, once you say that and you have that conversation, it makes sense. But if you don't know to do it and you haven't done it before, you just think, oh, tell me what you think. No, that's not what you want. You don't want them to tell you what they
don't open that can. You don't actually
it is hard to
that.
close it back, okay?
Yes.
Listen, they're going to tell you about your mama, your daddy, and them. They're going to tell you about things that you need to add and be like, oh my God.
Yes. Why, oh my gosh.
Even though I love critique groups, that's one of those reasons why I knew early on, I cannot do them. Cannot do them. But yeah, that's so dope. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to get to do more of them in the future. So with all that said, let's go ahead and dive into our conversation about characters, which of course I know because you get to read the first person summary, which I know you're looking forward to. Do you want to hit us with the summary before we get into our conversation? Tell me about how Cope Coulson heats your skin.
I can't stand you. We just talked about and all these summaries that were perfect, and then this one, I got to have stars in my eyes for this dude, okay? Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love Rachel. I love Rachel.
I get the sense that Dana is often having to remind herself, I love Rachel. She's my friend. We are friends. We are friends, right? I do like her, right?
Oh my gosh, here we go. Okay. Since the moment our lives fell apart, the only thing that mattered was making a good life for my son, a life where he was happy and safe. I just never expected to find that safety with a hockey player known for his brutal dominance on the ice and his recklessness off it. But Cope Coulson is so much more. The gentle way he makes sure we're okay, the playful care he shows my son, the way he truly sees me. When my life comes apart yet again, it's Cope picking up the pieces. Now we're living in his house, eating his incredible chef-worthy meals, and it's not just my son who's falling. It's me. Because when Cope touches me, I lose all sense. I'm no longer thinking about staying safe. I'm thinking about how my skin ignites with every glance, how I come undone with the barest brush of his fingertips. And when we give into temptation, I'm lost. But Cope has secrets, and so do I. And when the forces from our past emerge from the shadows, there is nothing they won't do to end our happiness once and for all.
All right. So basically, in summary, everybody, Cope Coulson's got it going on. All right. You got me. I don't know what happened for this episode, like this series of episodes, but you just got me extra spicy today. Like this series, I'm just extra saucy.
That's just you. That is just you. Don't blame
I'm just
all.
Being Rachel turned all the way up.
It's turned up. This is why you don't need a vacation. You had too much rest or something.
It's like she is supercharged. She is too much of everything that she is on a normal day.
Okay, as if you need help.
As if she needed more. So let's go ahead and get a high level look at what are some of the things that you want to make sure that we cover in our conversation today.
You know, this is, if you listen to the our previous episodes, I want to remind you guys that I really like this story. I don't feel like it's the greatest story ever. Like I don't think I would put it on my list of this is my favorite story of all time, but this is one that I would recommend again and again and again. And part of it is because of what we're talking about today is the characters. And so I absolutely would love to talk about the characters kind of in a general sense of Sutton being sort of like an everyday kind of woman, right? She's a single mom. She's a small business owner. She's doing what she needs to do because that's what the circumstances require. And she's basically just trying to juggle it all and hope nothing falls, right? While having sort of this cloud over their lives. And then we have Cope, who would be like your alpha sort of protector. And the thing that we like about him are sort of the things that you would normally get from a romance. But I do like the way that she wrote him in a way that gave him a lot of layers and depth. And we don't have to go into a whole lot about that. But I think the biggest part here that I like is you almost forget that he's meant to be Cope, hot hockey star, billionaire, rich guy, right? I mean, we see the evidence of his financial stability, but it kind of falls to the background because he's written like a regular everyday guy. And I think you don't see and I know why, if we ever get on that soapbox, you don't see regular people, right? We don't read and pick up a story to read about a regular person, right? Because we could just look to the left and the right. But but it makes them feel relatable, touchable. And I think this is a really great thing. Luca, listen, I love this kid, but we've talked about this before of like having kids in stories. And this is one of those moments where the two of them would not be in the same space if it was not for him. And also, I absolutely love the way, because of the age that she placed him, that they were able to sort of approach some of those trickier topics and get his way in. And I thought that was really, really good.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that's all I'm going to say. There's one more thing, and I don't know if there's a way to say it without having a spoiler alert. I really like that in a lot of ways, you don't see the twist coming because it does have to do with characters, and that you never forget that the antagonist is out there.
Yeah.
And so those are sort of loose and sort of bundled together. But I think it really pairs well to what we talked about last week because she did it well. But, the fact that, we don't forget that the antagonist is there, and the fact that that she just brought all of this together, and it made for a really great small town romance while having the benefits of those other things: single parent, hockey player, found family, like all of those dynamics that are rooted in the characters, setting up characters, highlighting old characters. Like, she just did all of that. And so this all the way around, this is a great thing. And the final thing that I will say is just like, I think the way she played opposites, because usually in romance you will have opposites, you rarely have characters that are alike, but I think that's the truth of most good couples. Here, the differences are a little bit different. It's not just, she's humble circumstances and he's a superstar kind of vibe. But, she's a skeptic. She's just like, she's looking out for the next shoe to drop. Anybody is a conduit of stuff because she felt so happy before and was sort of, rug was ripped off and under her. And I feel like for him, he had enough of a good thing with his family that even though it took a lot of healing on his part, he still knew what it meant to stand in that awkward place while she worked it out. And that's what I love about them as a couple. So I don't know if we will get to that, but I think it makes for a very interesting conversation at another day and another time about how can you play with things like opposites, right? And not the obvious, right? This is where we get like Grumpy Sunshine or age gap, older, younger, or May, December, anything like that. But here, it's an opposites on another level. It's almost like an opposites underneath their representative. And that becomes the version of them that they're working on. But it also makes of them a really good pairing in how they work together. And so overall, I feel like this was a really great story when it comes to character development. really good.
Yeah. And I'm going to be just kind of like sticking in some of my stuff kind of along the way as we go. But one of the things that really stood out to me when I was reading this story, and we will get specific with the family dynamics in this story, but I find romances in general are a great place to look if you want to write sort of these believable positive family dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
I think that romances, I've seen this repeatedly in so many of the romances that we've read where, positive family dynamics are a factor, writing them in a really convincing way that feels kind of lively and special, but also believable. And it doesn't feel sort of like saccharine or where you're like, ew, nobody exists like that. Like, stop. And so I think that this story is another great showcase for that. And then this doesn't fit neatly into plot or characters, but I just want to talk about, kind of connected to that too, how you handle flashbacks and memories in meaningful ways. Because that's another one that I think is really easy to get wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of see to use this story as a reference for how we can do that in a convincing way that tells the reader actual meaningful information instead of feeling like arbitrary or meaningless, essentially. And then finally, and this is going to kind of connect into what you were sort of talking about, like Sutton and Cope, is how you sort of it is kind of how you're playing with those opposites, because in this story we really have two characters who kind of have the same relational bad habit, of, right, they're taking care of others and they're not asking for help, and they like take care of others but then keep them also at like arm's length when they need something, and they do that to each other, and then both of them are kind of, but it's anchored in a different wound for each of them, right? Like it's coming from a different source, and how that kind of works in the story, and what makes that kind of interesting. So I figure we might as well just kind of start at the top with our protagonist Sutton, and sort of how she sort of shows up on the page, and then anything, of course, that you want to transition into how that translates into her relationship with Cope as well.
Mm-hmm. I want to back up just a tiny bit. I almost feel like your first point would have been a great one to kick off with, because it folds into this, but I'll say this. This is one of those stories where it's sort of a great reminder, if you haven't read it, right? That Sutton is a single mother. Her son is Luca. We see in the prologue that something sort of traumatic happens to them, and it causes them to move to a small town. And the bulk of the story happens in the small town. And she's raising her son, and he goes to this hockey camp, and Cope, who is a hockey star and is going through some things in the media right now. But Cope is her son's one of his favorite hockey players. And one of the things that I sort of want to spotlight, which tells us about Sutton, when I feel like she's an everyday woman, is like, she's a single mom running a business, trying to bake cupcakes while her son is sleeping, and taking him to drop him off and figure out how she's going to find the money to buy the hockey supplies, because this is what makes him happy. And I think it's so interesting. One of the things that you'll find that's a dynamic in romance is that you'll usually sort of have, these are my words for it and how I make meaning of it. Listen, that she's sort of like relatable to the average woman normally, and he is sort of the fantasy sort of aspect, right? Like, who wouldn't want to be, you broke, you're riding around on your donut, and he's rich, he's loaded, right? Bye Bill. So, but but what happens is it doesn't feel like a pity party, or it doesn't feel like woe is me. She feels like the person that would be your homegirl, like, okay, I'm about to just roll up my sleeves and I'm just going to figure it out. And this is where you find Sutton. And I think she's one of those characters that is written in just the way that you're not only sort of empathizing with her, you want to protect her, because you could feel something's coming because of the way that the story is set up. And I want to say it this way because this is where the romance coach and the romance writer in me is just like, listen, if you cannot stop and have a moment with your story to where you really put it on a level where we can feel and understand, the likelihood that you're going to put it on the page is slim. The note that you're about to bring up is exactly why. This is why I love romance, because we get access to the full spectrum of human emotions. And this is why. If you can't make it so that the situation that she's gone through, has every woman out there dated a bum, baby daddy hockey player who has some issues? No, but baby, do we know bum men? Maybe, right? And you're like, girl, run, you know. The moment your reader says that, Sutton has them.
Yeah.
She has them. So her resistance to the other mom that's sort of snubbing her nose, and her wanting to get the best for her son, even if it means she's got to do other things. All of these things, you're rooting for Sutton. So when you see somebody like a Cope coming to help, you want her, girl, take the help. Quit being hard-headed. You don't think, oh, Lord, here come a romance rich dude. No. Why? Because you want what's best for Sutton, and you want what's best for Luca. And so her being this everyday woman was already good. Now, by the time you sprinkle on the fact that Cope's whole existence pours salt on an open wound for her.
Yeah.
Listen, Catherine, girl, move to the front, because we could be homegirls. Listen, I don't know this woman. I caught her by her government. Okay, so taking that gives it not just make you lean in, but it gives you natural conflict. She don't want anything to do. She already don't want to be here. Yeah. If her son didn't love them so much, she is sucking it up. She's sucking it up, Buttercup, for real, right? Yeah. And just putting on a happy face for her son. So the fact that she's starting to feel this chemistry and all this other stuff, so this means that she naturally wrote them to have this sort of yin and yang in a way that is going to come to one of your other points that I think is why that element is so important. But the fact that you have this everyday woman and you have this guy that is used to sort of being what people need them to be, and the fact that they can see it in each other is what really makes it work. So you have that, and then you have him who on the surface is all the things that she's trying to steer clear from, but at the same thing, everything that she needs, that is hard to write. It can seem manufactured. It can seem squishy. And the fact that the author gave Cope a wound that was almost, if not as deeper than hers, just made it so that whenever they had those moments of showing up for each other, we don't give them that pass because they done been through enough already. You know what I mean? And it wasn't done in a boring or, you know, sometimes some of these books, they can be written in such a way where they're so emotional, they're draining. And I don't like that personally. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If that's your cup of tea, I just don't like it. And it didn't feel that way. It felt like, sometimes it was like, oh my God, can she catch a break? But that's just the story unfolding. But you are always wanting to move forward. And so the way that she sort of put those two together, and because of who he was, the way she intentionally had him show up, it was the showing that negated the hearsay or the things that were in the paper, or the things that he was already fighting against when the story opens. And and that's why this is it's one of those stories that you can look at it and probably read it 100 times and still get nuances in the characters, but in the best possible way. And so I sort of lumped him and her so that it'll go to what you're about to say. But I just feel like the two of them are really, really good. And it's not in your, I feel like it's not in your typical thing. Maybe it's because it's not sort of steeped in the, I want someone to save me. Like she didn't want that at all. And maybe it's, and it is because of her wound that she's already trying not to expose too much of herself or the people around her, and him being in a situation where he's just like, she's not going to ask for this. Well, how does he know? Because he wouldn't. Yeah. Right. And so it's like, no, I just got to do X, Y, and Z. And this is where you see the found family thing just sort of like, oh. So anyways, so I say all this to say Very great, really great protagonists. They
Mm-hmm.
both were strong in their own regard, and they had their own journeys, and their journeys merged together beautifully, so that that romance and that thread sort of merged the moment we sort of was making our way to the middle part of the book.
Yeah.
That it just worked seamlessly.
Yeah, well, and what I found so interesting, that right, that you're kind of like setting up here and you're getting at is the these two protagonists feel like such a deviation from what we've seen in the past. So I'm thinking like, for example, of like Knox and Naomi, right, where we have like very vivid, grumpy sunshine, like, and they're dealing with the same type of problem in totally opposite ways, right? Where Naomi is too accommodating and Knox's boundaries are too firm, and they are able to learn from each other because they're coming at the same problem from totally
Different
opposite
ways.
directions. Um, this is not what we see exactly with Cole and Sutton. Like we don't, I don't know, and Cole Cope. Now I wonder, would you consider this grumpy sunshine or no?
No,
Okay,
no.
I didn't think so, but I could be wrong.
Mm-mm.
I was ready to be wrong.
No, and y'all, this is dangerous. First of all, this is we could. This is one of those things that I can cop a squat and talk for forever, but I won't. I have a theory. Okay, my theory is
Tell me
this:
more.
when you, this is a book 3, and a lot of
Right.
times by the time you get to a book 3, you get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of leeway because by the
Mm-hmm.
time you get to a book 3, people trust you with the story.
Yeah.
If they trust you with the story, you usually there it's almost like you get a lot more grace. So I think you having your atypical sort of characters or characters sort of depicted in an atypical way is a
Yeah.
lot more understandable because you've probably already done the sort of baity hooky in a good way. Book
Yeah.
1, book 2, and now you sort of have these ones that are almost like outliers, right? They're like
Mm-hmm.
outliers that are just perfect for each other. And we are giving you more time to sort of develop that relationship while
Yeah.
at the same time setting it up for those last two. And so I really feel like a little bit of that is at play.
That makes
Um,
sense.
and it gives and so the fact that we entered in a book 3, because I normally wouldn't have, again, as Barnes and Noble, I didn't know it was a book 3,
Yeah.
but I think that it is part of that. And yes, I would not say it's a grumpy sunshine because it's not
Mm-hmm.
that. I think she really gave herself, again, with that prologue, time to really establish their status quo. And
Mm-hmm.
part of what you're talking about was rooted in that. And because we had those layers, again, if you guys did not read, listen to the plot episode, it would make a lot of sense here because those layers that you talked about, the subplots and those different things that are going on in their world, gave us time to really get to see how they act and how they begin to sort of ebb and flow around
Mm-hmm.
each other.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the thing that I kind of walked away from, because yeah, I'm glad that you said that because I was like, ooh, this is again different from what we normally see, and like Grumpy Sunshine and Full Opposites are like very popular,
Mm-hmm.
and they are not opposite. They don't have that same kind of dynamic that we're familiar with from our most popular tropes,
Mm-hmm.
especially in what we've seen in the pod, like with what we've had for the podcast. And what was so cool is that it highlighted how much variety there actually is in crafting your love interests, right?
Exactly.
Like you can have, two people who share a similar wound but deal with it differently. You can have people who have different wounds motivating similar behaviors, again, that they sort of like deploy against or toward, each other. They can have completely opposite problems or histories that bring them into conflict. There are all of these endless combinations basically that you can make, right? And this is reflective of life. How many types of couples are there out there in the world?
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
a lot. And a lot of dynamics at work in, again, we're talking about romance in this instance, but types of friendships, types of romantic, types of familial relationships, right? And what that means is that you get to pick what it is that you want to explore, right? And what your story is inviting, right, your protagonist to kind of grow in or experience in terms of like the development of those character arcs and your relational arcs. And so when you're crafting love interests, there's actually like, I think sometimes because in romance tropes are so prominent, there's an easy misnomer that it's all the same, right?
Yeah,
That it's like, oh,
exactly.
grumpy sunshine, and that means there's nothing new to be seen in grumpy sunshine. That's not the case at all, right? And so getting to see how many different kinds of dynamics you can actually play with and explore with, like in romance, or in a romantic subplot, if you're not a romance writer, in crafting your love interests, and who they are and how they are and who they are to each other, is really, really cool. And so just to kind of like dispel that sense of just because tropes exist that it's very samey, but actually you have so much room to play inside of those tropes.
Yeah, and I would actually like throw some water on it after midnight and turn it into gremlins, because it's all characters,
Yeah.
right? Like all characters that you encounter, which is why the human experience is so important. You change
Mm-hmm.
one detail, you change everything. Right? It's not the same anymore. And what you really are playing with, girl, I've been thinking about this, and we're not going to talk about it today, but just this aha moment I've had about backstories. I'm not going to do it. Rachel, don't you sit up in your chair. Sit back.
Now I'm stuck
No.
on the edge of my seat. I've been teased, everybody.
But
Dang
I'm going
it.
to say this. This is why I say this to everybody who is not a romance reader and you get stuck on the fact that it's steamy scenes, or that it's sex on the page, or that is whatever people like to say. I don't think people say it as much anymore because it's more common.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you want to really see great character development, pick up a romance.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't write romance, because what we're talking about is Michael Hauge called it, and I always thought he was like, this was one of the best lectures ever, but Michael Hauge called it that your couple sees the essence of the other person. So cope is literally coping, right? Literally coping with the thing that he's carrying, and even his family doesn't know it. But she can see through it without knowing what the thing is. And there's something about being seen and not being called out on your ish, and just being able to be like, okay, I'm not in this thing alone. So that when you then get to the point of unpacking it and getting to what we talked about last time, that it makes for an environment that they can unload the thing that has disrupted their entire lives. I always tell my students, remember when you are reading a romance that this person is encountering the moment that will change the rest of their lives.
Yeah. That's so good.
Somebody who has been with I have been with my husband married almost 30 years. We dated for 5 years before we got married. Me seeing this young man sit across the tree, across the courtyard, who knew?
Yeah.
Changed the rest of my life, right?
Yeah.
And it seems crazy when you think about it, but that is what the space that you're writing from, right? That this is something that changes the rest of their lives, that it helps them to see themselves differently. It helps them to heal from something that they've been carrying. She could not help him heal from that. She could help navigate him towards having the conversation that she knew would free him from the burden. And so when you have good sexy hot songs mixed with all the cute kid and cupcakes, and then you have this like heartfelt mom embracing her son, her getting rid of that baggage and being able to live her life, you're like, I can do anything. Like, who doesn't love a happily ever after? And that's what this book challenges you to do and see. But it also challenges you to see characters as multidimensional, right? It's not just them in this relationship, but it's all those things that make them that's a pro and a con. Right? We see the things that made him, that made him a protector, that made him a provider, that made him a good spouse or friend, then spouse. But you also saw the things that sort of was holding him back. The fact that he wasn't communicating the way that he should. The fact that he was carrying a lot of things on his own. And now he's in a space where he doesn't want to do it anymore. Even to the point where they kind of got in that tiff, and he sort of made her feel bad that she didn't want to, and she couldn't communicate it because, all these things. We see the things that also caused previous relationships to spiral, but that other person is calling them on their ish. Like that's not cool. So we see that, but the only way we see it and we believe it. The only way we can see it is if it's on the page. And the only way
Yeah.
we are going to believe it is if you've left the appropriate breadcrumbs.
Mm-hmm.
And those breadcrumbs connect.
Yeah.
Right? And she does that here. Like,
absolutely.
Like slam dunk.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wonder, because we kind of got a chance to talk about like Sutton and Cope and sort of their sort of relational dynamic and them as kind of individuals. Do you want to talk a little bit about the role that Luca plays in the story? Because he really is kind of, you know, this story doesn't really exist without Luca, right? So the things that Sutton does, he is her whole entire motivation, right? So it's driving her to make the decisions that she does. So he's not just like cute kid set dressing, but is actually like an integral part of what makes this story even happen in the first place.
Mm-hmm. This is just a great kid. I think she picked a great age for him to be understanding and to be independent and even to sort of challenge his mom in some ways. Also here, you sort of feel like he is a catalyst because she wouldn't have ever gone to the hockey thing because she didn't want to be anywhere near hockey. And we see that all the while, like he is always sort of the motivating factor until she starts realizing that she matters too, right? That she matters too. The other thing that I really love about him, that like he's not just the one for the cute one-liners.
Yeah.
Right. There was a couple of those moments I was like, oh, that was good.
He's like when bringing the wisdom.
Or when he was in the car and Cope could see that something was off.
Yeah.
And it brings up the whole thing of how much kids see and how much kids experience that adults can discount. And so I feel like she used that, but she uses it in a way that makes it so that their issue here is never the sort of easy road out, which is lack of communication. There's a lot of communication going on here. And so that one doesn't sort of become the scapegoat. But I think what it also does is it makes her, she wants something better for her son. And therefore that means she must want something better for herself. It's almost like you have to, how would I say it? Like,
she's been Jedi mind tricked into taking care of herself.
Yes. That was a great way to say it. And she needs, right, because she wants it, but she wouldn't have accepted it because accepting it is how she sort of, in a lot of ways, got here in the first place. So it was a necessary thing. And this is kind of this is the last part I'll say about this because I could talk about it forever. It makes me think of one of your mind maps and me and my whirly birds, where when you get ready to pick characters like this, really think about it. What is it about this character that brings out the best and that challenges the other characters and the environment? When he asked her about what happened, man, I was like, oh, is she gonna tell him? And she still had to do it in a way that felt like, in my mind, like that was the truth, but that was also classy in a way, or that was in a way that a good mother would do, that because that's still his father. You know, things like that.
Yeah.
When you see that, I'm going to back up one small pace. I would bet a great portion of romance readers are or have been single moms. If you think about the dynamic right now of the world, right? Of women that either have been married and divorced or had kids, single parents or whatever. So can you imagine how many women would be like, oh, I wish I could just have a conversation and man, it makes you want to think about it differently. You don't got to tell them everything, but tell them the truth. Right. And then I'll come back to the other things when you're a little bit older. And I feel like that makes these kinds of stories so much more than chandelier swinging. Like that part is good too, like to see the full scope of a relationship, but having him there and her needing to encounter that. And then once again, being a moment where somebody like Cope and his family dynamic made it feel like a non-factor. And that was necessary, right? It was necessary. He's not scared by a patched together family.
Mm-hmm.
He's used to it. That is his family.
Yeah.
And you are, when he realizes they're getting this family, and it's like, I'm like, girl, I was like, if I cry, I'm gonna be mad. So yes, so great kid, great model of how to do it. Do I feel like every kid in every story is going to be like this? No, but it brought the laughs, and it brought the seriousness, and it brought in parenting, and it brought in kids just wanting to have fun. And also sometimes his ability to express the very thing that Sutton wanted to say. Yeah. But you don't get to say that as adult. Like, I just want a family.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, wait, we can have, this is our family, like, and this is something she would want to say that, right? But we're adulting, we're paying bills, we're, drinking our water, minding our business. And here is this cute kid that sort of just allows her to just have fun in the moment. Make it about cupcakes and cookies, right? Make it about hockey and having fun. Yeah. And even giving him his own story arc and having those low moments and having to come out on the other side and understanding the importance of family,
Yeah, great, absolutely. Great. Yeah, and this is like a great kind of just opportunity to talk a little bit about those family dynamics, right? Mm-hmm. So, I think that, and this again is true in this story where, well-written families which with specifically positive dynamics in romances are a combination of funny, snarky, they're also annoying at times, right? And but fundamentally lovable. And I think that's what really creates that sense of balance to a positive family dynamic that is not simply saccharine, again, where we're just like, oh, it's sweet and it's sentimentality. Like, family, we love, when we have our family, whatever that is, right, of our chosen family or our biological families, when we have those familial types of relationships, they are a combination of deep support and love, and also getting on each other's nerves, because that is what happens when you live in close proximity to people, right? And so, this, I love this family that Cope is a part of, because, and they have like real specific like mannerisms, right? So like we've got our one aunt or grandma who is like, she is a party animal. She is getting it all, wherever she can get it, she's getting it. And so you've got this really, kind of quirky character that sometimes they're like, we need to corral her because she is frequently inappropriate, right? They get annoyed with each other, right? They have these funny specific details, right? So like, she talks about their group chat, right? Yeah. Which is constantly changing the name to be something weirder and weirder and weirder. And one of the things that this does, and this is something that you're looking for when you are communicating and creating long-standing relationships in a story, what you are looking for is the specifics that make this family or this friendship itself, right? Like when I think about our friendship, Dana, our friendship is very specific to the very specific people that we are, right? And anybody who's listening to the podcast is like, yes, Rachel and Dana have a very specific dynamic. And but that is what makes those dynamics memorable, and what also actually connects your reader to them, right? Because they're specific to the people in them. And this kind of connects back to the way that we handle things like flashbacks or memories, right? So one of the things, and I've done this with a lot of my clients where, they'll sort of be like, oh, I remember this thing. And it's kind of vague and non-specific, right? Where it's like, oh, we did this thing, but it doesn't really mean anything because it's not anchored in any specific detail. You could substitute any people in or out of that memory and not lose anything about it, right? So for example, your main male character's first baseball game with dad, right? It's like, oh, I remember going to my first baseball game with my dad. That means very little to us. And it doesn't really tell us anything about the relationship either. It doesn't tell us about what it was like being with their dad. It doesn't tell us what the dad was like. It tells us relatively next to nothing. But First baseball game with dad when you accidentally dropped your hot dog down some unsuspecting man's shirt and your dad almost got into a fist fight about it tells you a lot more, right? About the clumsy kid and how the father handles that kind of situation and what they did after, right? Whether they laughed about it, whether the dad had a talk of like, hey, you should get into fistfights or whatever, right? And so when you're thinking about both family dynamics and or again friendship dynamics or memories and flashbacks, you're looking for meaningful specific details that tell us something about the characters involved, right? This memory is only possible because it was these two specific people who were involved, or this, whatever series of people. And thinking about when you're deploying a flashback or a memory, what information are you wanting the reader to take away, right? Like, what is it telling the reader about the characters and that relational dynamic? And that can help you to be thoughtful about when you choose to do it. And again, being really specific about what you are telling us for maximum effect, right? So that it tells us like so much about the characters and the people involved. And this story did that really well, where they got ultra specific about the kinds of interactions that take place between the characters in the present as well as in the past.
Yeah, and I would add one more thing to that, and it plays out so much in any genre, but really in romance, which is what meaning did that character make of it, right? So they have a moment where they have this memory, but figuring out like what meaning did they make of it? The meaning that Cope made of that situation derailed everything for him, right? And you could say, well, I mean, but you were just a kid, but it was a kid having this moment. And so the fact that it's almost like, well, the adults around didn't pick up on that was just a thing. But those are the sort of kernels that a great story is made of. It's sort of like, Kim and I we were talking about, I don't know, we like watching trash TV. And so we were talking about, we was watching this show and I'm just like, she kept seeding that. Can you get mad that you reap what you sowed? You can't seed something and get mad that it comes back and you put down the apple seed, you got an apple tree. So what are the things that happens? And it becomes the reason why I was bringing up your mind map and my whirly bird. It's like, okay, these things happened. This is what actually happened. This is how they interpreted what happened. This is what they carry forward in their life. That is sort of like this, the sort of residue, if you will, of that moment that changed who they were.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you giving that is because what you're trying to do in essence is give context, right? You're giving this, because a lot of times the things that we believe make no sense to your adult brain, because you wouldn't think twice about it as an adult, but as a kid or as somebody that's in love or as somebody who fabricated this whole thing in your head and now you have to deal with the reality of it, it sort of taints or tilts the understanding. And your almost entire story in a lot of cases are debunking that thing. So it's not just telling me some backstory because you think it's clever. Save that for somebody else. Do that for coffee talk.
Yeah.
Give me something that is really showing me who this person is and how they see themselves and how they see their circumstances and how this love can help them to get off and under this boulder that has rested on their chest their entire lives.
Yeah.
Sign me up for that 10 times. You know what I'm saying?
So good. Yeah.
Right. And so that's when you start, you sort of got my backstory spilling away. But that's what it is. And I think a lot of times what happens is as writers, we just see it as clever information to put in there. Don't get in that trap. That gets boring, right? Like give it some meat, give it some depth, give it something that helps them change how it fundamentally changed who they were. And a lot of times, again, seeing stories like this or looking at your own life, seeing that there was this one moment and once I saw this, I could no longer unsee it. Now, and as you get older, you can process it. You can get counseling. You can have great friends. You can have great relationships. But even all those things still do not take away what you thought about it. You just have a better way of either coping or handling it or compartmentalizing it. And
Mhm.
your characters are no different. It's just,
Yeah.
and it gives you great fodder to work with.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
you don't stick with the surface level, you do those things
Yep.
that you're talking about, right? That you find
Mhm.
out like what happened, make sure that it's meaningful. What do you want to tell the reader? What meaning did the character make of it? How did it
Yeah.
change them? How did
Mhm.
they handle it? Like, what
Yeah.
story did they make up about themselves because of it? You see
Yeah.
this a lot. Kids, divorce. How do you get to
Mhm.
the point where my parents divorced because of me? That's
Mhm.
that's just in your youthful mind that you put
Mhm.
those dots together. You wouldn't necessarily think that as an adult. So things like that, you almost have to go to that sort of childlike thinking when
Mhm.
you're at the fundamental aspects or at the heart of your characters. And in this story, we sort of got to see the wound for Sutton, even though there was other things that led up to it. That was sort of the culmination of it.
Mhm.
But for Cope, we didn't, right? We
Mhm.
didn't. And it sort of had to come out, and it came out through his
Yeah.
actions, through his interactions with his siblings and all of
Mhm.
that. And again, this goes back to what said in plot, tells you the type of scenes that you need, the types of
Yeah.
discussions that need to be had, and the
Yeah.
types of obstacles that the love interest is up against in order to
Mhm.
have a wholehearted, full love that is open, and that other person feels so safe in that relationship that they can share that peace that they've never shared with anybody else, because that is
Yeah.
also a part of what romance gives.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's so good. So were there any other points you wanted to make sure that we covered in today's episode before we wrapped our discussion of characters?
No, we've been talking more than enough. The final thing that I will say this. When we're talking about this and having this sort of, this is about this story, but I think it's more so about what we're bringing to the light about characters, is about once you start understanding that this is the perspective that your characters are coming from, this is who they are, this is who they believe they are, this is who they are without the weight of that burden, then
Mhm.
it's our job as writers to drip that out, right?
Yeah.
Dumping it gives you a lot of words, but it doesn't actually serve the story, because
Yeah.
nobody just changes overnight, right? Like,
Right.
you need those instances, and the more that you understand how to drip it out, the more you understand how to show the transformation that is happening.
Yeah.
See, you help yourself doing that
Yeah.
little bit of extra work. Go ahead and do that little
Mhm.
mind map Rachel like to do. Go ahead and do that little world of
Love a
her.
mind map.
You know I
Love a
love
mind map.
listen. And what that begins to do is give you sort of the substance that's the undercurrent under those moments that you create
Mhm.
because of the dynamics, that lived in aspect that we talked about in plot.
Yeah.
And all the while, what you're doing is you are freeing these people from their mental jails, or in
Mhm.
Sutton's case, in her situational jail, and in
Yeah.
Cope's situation, his mental, right? And
Mhm.
that them becoming the best version of themselves so that they could be a whole person for the other person frees them too.
Yeah.
To let all that goodness flow in and out between them,
Yeah.
and to love somebody and be loved fully in return.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. What a nice mic drop
You know what?
to end our conversation on characters. So thank you everybody so much for joining us for this discussion of characters. We will be back next week, same time, same place, to discuss our editor's takeaways from this from Broken Harbor by Catherine Cowles. And really excited because we're also going to give you a sneaky preview of what our next book is going to be. So look forward to that. You can find us anywhere where you like to listen to your podcasts. You can find us on YouTube. And if you have questions, please feel free. You can email us at storydeepdive well, you can find our contact information at storydeepdive.com. So check us out there. Wherever you like to listen to this, don't forget to like and subscribe so you always get new episodes when they come out. And I think that's everything that I'm supposed to say at the end of an episode. So thank you, everybody, so much for being here. We appreciate you so much. We will see you next week. But until then, happy writing.